elected him to enforce laws, and that's what we were able to do. At the time, the agency was not, what I'll say, handcuffing us or blocking us from going out and upholding the law. I will say, going back or going over to Pinnell under Sheriff Lamb, it was very refreshing in the fact that he was very much the, hey, we hired you to do this job. Go out and protect the people of Santan Valley, or if Pinnell's the last 3 minutes of assisting somebody to the ground or something along those lines.
Enforcing gravity. Yes.
Exactly.
I'm seeing they just shot and killed that guy.
That one was a rough one to watch. I would
Right.
say, that one. Pull over a car at 2:00 in the morning and it's fully tinted out windows. That feeling that you get walking up and going, do I make it home tonight?
Right. You have over 10 years in law enforcement, and we just had Sheriff Lamb on the podcast a week ago, and we were talking about the current state of law enforcement and how AI might be coming into that real soon. I know there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now in law enforcement and public appearance, winning hearts and minds. Like, how do you feel about all that right now?
I was very lucky when I first started, again, being under Sheriff Joe. He was very much handle business. Go out there. They elected him to enforce laws, and that's what we were able to do. At the time, the agency was not, what I'll say, handcuffing us or blocking us from going out and upholding the laws and holding people accountable for their actions. It seemed as time went on, unfortunately, that agency became the opposite. So they were no longer, it was more, well, don't be so rough with some of these violent criminals. And it was very off-putting or handcuffing us in a way it very much felt like, don't do your job. Do not go and enforce these laws to the best of your ability. You have to be, everything became softer and gentler. Even in the academies, I saw that they weren't being as, you couldn't yell or be as rough, I guess, with some of the recruits. You had to be a lot more gentler, and you couldn't use the word. I remember the word warrior had to be taken out of the academy, and so guardian was put in its place or something like that, because warrior gave off more of a militarized
instigating
feel. Exactly. So warriors go out and look for things, and guardians just sit back and protect, and that's kind of how we were told a lot about that. I will say, going over to Pinnell under Sheriff Lamb, it was very refreshing in the fact that he was very much the, hey, we hired you to do this job. Go out and protect the people of Santan Valley or of Pinnell County, and that's what we were known for. And it felt good again to get back into that. Hey, here's the role that we were placed in. Let's go and fight crime. Let's go to the best of our ability. How I've seen lately is, and I even have a really good friend of mine who is a training personnel at an academy, and he just says even some of the people some of the recruits that come through, if they get yelled at, they begin to cry and they need their safe space and they need to.
That's wild.
And it's one of the things that I think if you're going into this, because no one, again, people try out to become law enforcement. I remember when I first tried, for several years, I would show up for 4 positions and there were 1,600 applicants. And it's like, great, I have to beat out, almost 1,600 people to maybe get my chance at 4 spots, one of 4 spots. So no one is just, you try out for this. No one's twisting your arm to become a law enforcement officer. And it's crazy to me to think that you don't think at all that you're going to be yelled at, cursed at, spit on, punched, hit, kicked. Like, if none of that at all comes into your mind, that you are going to see the worst of humanity on their worst day. And if you don't think any of this stuff needs to be addressed during an academy, I think you're completely doing a disservice to these recruits, because they're going to get out there and the harsh reality of what's going to happen, or the harsh reality of the job, is going to hit them in the face. And I don't think they're going to be prepared. I know that the training staff, they prepare them, academically, weapons proficiency and things like that. But I think it's the interactions with people that I don't think there's just a lot of soft people nowadays that are coming into this profession, and it's very hard to see.
I mean, I can understand where upper management, with like the integration of everybody has a phone that has a camera on it, they're only going to get the one angle. They're only going to, and body cam and so on and so forth. Nowadays, if you go like, hey, asshole, like get on the ground, and somebody just records that part, but they don't see the 125-mile-an-hour chase that just happened, or, they threw whatever out the window. They, are known for fighting cops. Whatever the case may be, these people don't know that, and they're only seeing one extremely myopic viewpoint of what's happening. And I'm not advocating for, like police brutality or anything like that. I mean, I got stories. My father was beaten within an inch of his life by certain PDs we can talk about off camera. However, I do also understand that, like, we're only seeing the one side of it. And sadly, people get fired up real fast and reactionary when they're like on YouTube and they're, or Facebook. Oh, that son of a,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
because they're seeing one side of it. And so I could see where leadership would go, hey, let's be a little bit kinder, a little bit softer. But you don't, like you said, handcuff your warriors and turn them into sweet, gentle guardians. Like, stop.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm not at all for, it was never we were past the beaten street. Hey, someone did something, you rough them up, you let them go. My time, at least, was completely after that. Which it's crazy to hear those guys' story. But again, it's one of those things where you have to uphold the law, and sometimes you have to meet that with physical force. And again, I'm not saying at all police brutality by any stretch, but I'm also I'm a huge proponent of also the agency backing you up and being transparent when these things happen. Like you were saying, a cell phone may catch a specific angle and they'll show the 5 seconds of the cop being aggressive. They won't show the 35 minutes of everything that led up to that, or the horrific domestic violence that you just had to stop. They'll just catch the last 3 minutes of you assisting somebody to the ground or something along those lines.
Enforcing gravity. Yes.
Exactly. So I'm all for, though, the agency being extremely transparent when these issues come up to the public, and saying, look, I know that so far the public has seen this. Here's what fully happened. Because I'll tell you, I think there are 99% of every law enforcement agency or every deputy I've worked with were good-hearted people who wanted to do the best they possibly could.
Yeah.
I think 99% of them did. Do you have a bad apple? I'm sure you do. You have bad apples working at fast food restaurants. You have bad apples in CEO positions. So there's bad apples, there's bad people. Do some of them slip through the cracks? They absolutely do. I always say, again, there's nobody hates a bad cop worse than a good cop. And so I think fair. 99% of the people I've ever seen or worked with wanted to do the best they could for the people around them, the general public and their teammates.
Yeah. It's a wild world that we're living in right now. And like everything that happened in like Minneapolis, and then everybody's a Facebook attorney.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but I saw this angle, I saw that angle. Oh, but I come from this place. And so, I'm going to reinforce my point by saying that this is the thing that I saw. And I mean, we are in an extremely polarized existence right now. Society is just polling hard one way and the other. And let's be realistic. Like, if you do not like police officers, you're not going to like them, regardless of what you see. They could get a kitten out of a tree and you're going to be like, oh, they beat up that cat, those scumbags, all cops are bastards. And I mean, that's stuff that happened in Minneapolis. Like, when I first saw the shooting of the Renee Good gal, like, I'm like, oh, yeah, he killed her. And then I was like, oh, nope, looks like she was going at him. And then I was like, well, he could have jumped out of the way. Well, no, apparently he couldn't have. And the tire's moving this, And so I was back and forth on it. And that's why, like I said, I really attempt to not get on soapboxes and go like, this is clear and obvious, However, the second shooting, Pretty,
Yeah.
whatever his name was, um, I did not give a public opinion on that one because from what I'm seeing, like, yeah, they just shot and killed that guy.
That one was a rough one to watch. I would
Right.
say that one was.
It's just a wild time that we're living in where like there are good men and women out there that are wearing a badge and doing all they can to help society. And I think, man, I wish there was a little bit more of an understanding and litmus test that they could give to see the reasons that the person is joining, right? Because if it's to prove your ego, if it's to prove something, if it's big me, little you, like, no, you should not be a police officer.
I agree.
But if it is that you care about society, if it is that you care about protecting, if it is that you care about stopping all of these nasty, bad characters that are out there, then yeah, you should be. And you should be honored and appreciated for what you're doing.
I wish every person that has all these negative comments from seeing videos, I wish they could do a ride along with an officer that's been there for 1 year. Hop into the car with them, go on a, we can't predict when crime happens, but go on a, Friday or Saturday night and sit in the car and see what that officer has to, or that deputy has to deal with. When you pull over a car at 2 o'clock in the morning and it's fully tinted out windows, that feeling that you get walking up and going, do I make it home tonight?
Right.
That will, that will, and still be, again, that polite and professionalism when you have walking up to that window, not knowing if that window is going to come down and you're going to get shot.
Yeah.
And just, I wish people would look at it from that angle, and that cops are not supposed to be robots. Law enforcement are not supposed to be robots. They have their flaws, just like every other person. When these flaws get shown, I think it's easy for society to blow it out of proportion. But and again, I hate when, like we were talking about the one gentleman, when we see mistakes happen in law enforcement, they can get up to a lethal mistake. Again, accountability is everything for it as well. That one I think looked bad from everything I have seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean those are the rough ones to watch, and you hopefully I hate to say it's a learning experience. If somebody had to lose their life to learn, but yeah, I mean I know that mistakes happen. So.
Well, and I mean, all the evidence isn't out yet either.
True.
I think the best
None
thing,
of us were there.
right. The best thing that somebody in leadership could do in that situation, rather than going, well, our guardians were, is just go, hey, it looks bad. We see that it looks bad. We are going to fully investigate this. And then anyone that did wrongdoing will be held accountable.
Absolutely.
Right? And there's a lot that's going on in society right now, and it's super polarized, and there's so many people that are just on the cusp all the time. And it's sad. It's sad to see the decline of society. I mean, I was explaining to somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody younger. And I was like, man, I really wish you could have lived before 9/11. And they were like, and I know it sounds totally off of what I'm talking about, but it was completely different back then. I was 17 years old when 9/11 happened, and like just society was different, and everybody wasn't so pissed off all the time.
Yeah.
Like everybody didn't seem to be on edge like they are now. And it's been this decline. And it breaks my heart because I absolutely love this country. And, we're the wildest experience in liberty and freedom that ever happened. And it's eroding.
Yeah, I think the extremes on both sides are unfortunately growing. And the middle section of the ones that just want to be, leave me alone. You have your opinions. I'll have mine. Let's cohabitate and exist together. I think that number is becoming smaller and smaller. Unfortunately, I think people are growing on both extreme ends.
I agree, and I think a large portion of that gap that was that middle ground is now like myself. I'm not on either extreme, I'm on a whole different, like if this is linear, I'm going off the line because I'm like, you know what? I do just want to be left alone, and I do just want to get away from society and just do my own thing. Live out the rest of my days like in a garden and making my own bread and just being happy, you know?
Absolutely.
Doing a podcast.
Yeah, I'll fly in for that. That's the goal, man. I already picked out the location I want the ranch because there's an airport that I can fly here and still do the podcast. I hope that we're able to capture kind of the essence of what this time feels like so that people, who knows, 20 years from now can come back and see this and just be like, oh, that's what it was like back then. And I'm truly hoping that in 20 years from now, if they come back and look at it, they're like, that must have really sucked because life is great. You've probably heard people talking about peptides. It piqued your interest. You looked into it, but you don't know what source to trust. A lot of this stuff is coming out of China. If you're looking for a good quality peptide that's made in the United States, go to helixpure.com.